Okay, got some volume. All right, everybody. This is back to work for me from last night. As I had noted, had promised you, I was going to cover a little bit more on the Hudson Palmer case. And you'll notice that we've spent a lot of time talking about tables and the data that go into them. And we spent a lot of time talking about, making sure that you have all of the data that you need. Don't ask for more than what you can use. Data formats and all of those things. And look, again, the reason is this. If you have garbage in your tables, you'll have garbage in terms of output. And as the text discusses and shows us, okay, and as you can see it in Access, the four main objects, tools that you use in a database is a table, that's where you store everything, a query or a search engine, a query engine, where you can request or ask or go get data from the table, okay? Then a form, which is used to input data into a table, and then a report. So it's input, throughput, output, a basic system. And we call them a relational database management system because we can use a primary key in a table as a means to link to another key in another table. Now, let's go back through this again real quickly so you can understand what I'm saying, right? Because I may sound gibberish. We remember the primary key is the key in a table that makes every single record unique. Now, we can take that primary key and we can put it into another table where it's not the primary key. Then we call it a foreign key, okay? But we can link the two tables on the basis of matching up that key. Now, in truth, I don't have to link tables by primary keys. I can simply have the same data in one column, okay, or dimension in one table, and have that same dimension and that same data in another table, okay? And then I can link the two tables as long as both tables have unique records. And I can string those, I can group those tables together as much as I want to, okay? And that gives us the power of relating these data. And you say, well, it sounds a little bit like connect the dots. It really, truly is. Now, in the Hudson Palmer case, okay, and we talked about that last night, over there on page 166, they had the various tasks, okay, and we worked through some of that. So I'm going to go back into the files, all right? And remember, don't forget, as you look at this, okay, you're going to see my view of that table. Now, so you're going to see some things that don't show up on, there will be some things on your screen that when you're in there, you'll see some things grayed out like that, okay? Well, that's an item that I just simply, I have there, and I keep a lot of this stuff from prior semesters because I never know when I might be able to use it, okay? So let's go into the files. And what I'm going to concentrate today, I'm going to concentrate on building lookup tables. Now, remember last night when we were going through Hudson Palmer, and we did some work with that with that database, and we went through and we talked about some of the data in the table. You remember we went in, we did used a format, an input mask to standardize the way that phone numbers would look and be inputted into their table. We ran some queries. We did some work. I showed you about operations, where we ran some we developed some equations, and then I also showed you, I spent a lot of time talking about importing data. In fact, here's that Hudson Palmer import, and that had that data in it, and we talked about that, and so we ended up also talking about, okay, well, could I develop an input table that indicate? Could I have an input table? Can I develop an input table that lets me put data into the main table or another table much easier? And yes, we can. Now, let me go down, and we're going to take the Hudson Palmer import, okay? And let me find the Hudson Palmer case that we used, the one that was finished. And remember now, last night I opened up the solutions files for you. Okay, I published those. Here are the skeleton files, the student files. This is just like, you remember we were doing the Excel cases, and I tell you, here's a skeleton file. We have a partial set of data, and the authors expected to put some more data in and do some other work, and then I would show you the solutions. Okay, well, here's the student files, okay, for Hudson Palmer. Here's the solutions file. All right, now as you could see, as you look, and you could see this, I've got a lot of different things I've worked on as I've taught this course over the past several years that I can use and show you, and that's why I keep these things, because they're good examples, okay? And that's really what we're doing, is working that with you. Now, I'm going to, just to reemphasize something that I think is important, all right? I'm going to do the Hudson Palmer import, okay? And so I'm going to open up Access. Okay. Now listen, if you uploaded a file last night, that's okay. You don't need to upload this. This is just to show you about lookup tables. So I'm going to do a blank database, and I'm going to call this lookup tables example. Okay. I'm going to create it. So I now have a blank Access database. All right. Now I'm going to do this, diminish this down, and I'm take the Hudson Palmer import, and remember it's an Excel file, and I'm going to download it to my desktop that is covered and littered with files. I really need to clean it up. Okay. And I'm going to enable the editing. Now, I want to do something here for just a moment. I talked a whole lot about, if you have data in a table, okay, that you need to do some heavy lifting in terms of the mathematics, okay, or that type of thing, or operations, you're better off to take that table and dump it into Excel, do your work, and then dump the Excel file back. In other words, use a spreadsheet for a spreadsheet, use a database for a database, okay? Now, as I've mentioned many, many times, there are products out there now. Tableau is one of them. SAS Visual Analytics is another. And certainly you can use Access and Excel to do that work. And in fact, when remember the last case that we did, the last Excel case we did was we did the company that sold organic foods, Pacific Trading. and that was XLS 13. And and remember how we used a pivot table. And I said, and you'll hear me say it many times, the most powerful tool that I know in Excel, other than the Excel solver, which is to optimize, which is an optimization tool, is pivot table, because I can get all of the benefits of a database and all the benefits of an analytical engine or a spreadsheet. Okay. Well, before we do anything, I'm going to go back. I'm going to take a look and say, okay, now I'm over here and I have this file open, Hudson Palmer import. All right. Now I've got some stuff here. I've got the last name, the first name, the skill, the hourly rate, and all the and the rater and all this business. I have everything that I need there, all the phone numbers. Okay. Now I'm going to add a column, which in Excel is a whole lot easier for me than to go. Yeah, look, I can go into Access. I could add this field, but then I'm going to have to compute it. So I'm just going to show you. Okay. And in your career, you're going to learn, if you've got some heavy lifting to do, okay, in terms of mathematic operations, do it in Excel, okay, and then dump it into the database. The truth is, you'll probably, if you work for a large company, have some kind of tool like SAS, Visual Analytics, maybe SAP, maybe an Oracle client that does that. If you understand this, you're going to be operating far in advance of your contemporaries, because you're going to understand how a database works and really why it's there. A database is a place to store and organize and retrieve data that you turn into information. Okay? And so when you let it operate like that, then you can use it as the base for the computational work that you might need to do. And let me give you an example. Okay, now we've got these hourly rate for each of these people and each of their skills. Okay, this is from and then we have the number of hours that this person, for example, worked in the first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, and fourth quarter. Let's get the total number. Now, if we did that, we'd have to write a long, lengthy, a fairly lengthy operation. Okay, and then run a query and put the operation into the query. We're going to do that. We're going to stop that, and we're going to do this. I'm going to insert a column. Okay, and I'm going to call this total hours. Yeah, total hours. 2008, because you're talking about 2008. Now move that over. Okay. And you say, oh, this looks easy. Yes, it is, my friends. I'm just going to scroll right across over here. Now you see what I'm talking about. I'm going to do the auto sum, right? And then I'm just going to simply scroll. Now this is not very impressive, okay, until you say, what if I had 1,000 of these? Then or 500 or 100. Then you go, oh, I get it. Now we're going to go ahead and we've got the total number of hours that this person worked, and we're going to add one more column. Okay, and here we're going to get total earnings. Now, like I said before, if you just upload what I told everyone to upload last night, what we worked on in class, okay, you're good to go. Now I'm going to call this total hours 2008, but I'm going to put it in caps. I'm going to call it total hours worked 2008. Okay. And then I had the total earnings, and let's just go ahead and call that total earnings 2008. Okay. And I'm going to nudge this over. Now, this is a very simple proposition. Again, I would have to write an operation because, you know, to get the total earnings, you're going to have to take total hours worked times the rate. So you're going to have to take this figure here times the rate. Okay? But instead of doing that, we're just going to simply do this. Equal and just to be on the safe side, I'm going to go ahead and use my reference. Okay? And I'm putting the dollar sign in front of the I and a dollar sign in front of the D, so it's evident, okay, that I'm coming down the column, okay, because I have the dollar sign says stay in the I column, stay in the D column, but come down the rows, and I'm going to do that, okay, and there we are. Much simpler. And now, if I needed to say, okay, total earnings, what if I gave everybody a 10% raise? I could add another column. You see what I'm talking about, all right? And in my experience, if you're starting fresh, okay, it's sometimes just a good idea to build your tables in Excel. And especially if you have numeric data or computational output like we have here, total hours worked, total earnings, do it over here. You see, I just clicked on the cells that had the cell reference, then I did the drag and drop. Otherwise, we run a query, then we go into the design mode of query and we write an expression. And that can give you some problems. And we did that, okay? And we'll do some of that, but for all intents and purposes, when you can do an import, you're a lot better. So what you're saying, Dr. Harmon, is there'll be those times I could export a table into Excel, add some additional columns that might have computation in them, and then import that back into Excel, into Access. Yes. Okay. Now, as I said before, most of you will be working with a tool like SAS, like Oracle, like SAP that does that for you. And it will depend on your level of security or your managerial level in terms of what tables you can access and what you can do. Okay, and there's a free if you really want to kind of understand this and you want to get a real leg up for the employer, potential employer is going to ask you, are you good at spreadsheet? You say, yeah, I've worked with Excel. And I would say go out and learn a little bit about a program and an application called Tableau, Tableau, okay? And take a look at it. Now, by the way, if you go through all the BISS courses, by the time this is all done, okay, you will have the same skills as an entry-level business analyst, okay? And you'll have had 5 courses in BISS, and you'll have the basic skills of a beginning business analyst, and you'll be able to say to the employer, I can work with databases, I can work with spreadsheets, I understand how they work, and I can assure you that when they hear the word database, that's going to get their attention, because they're going to get a lot of people that are wizards at Excel, but understanding how to use a database is a whole different level, and we're still just learning how to use them. Well, we've got this Hudson import, okay, and I've done this computational work, and so I have how many hours they worked and their total earnings for 2008, okay, and I'm going to go ahead and save this, okay, and I'm going to put it on my desktop, okay. And I'm going to call it, this is Hudson Palmer Import 4. And of course, you understand because this is the 4th file like this I've worked with. So I'm going to save it to my desktop. Okay. and it's there. Now I have everything the authors asked for, everything, okay? And you're going to find as we go through some of these cases, just like with the Excel cases, I'm not going to waste your time typing in, having you type in data, okay? There's no need. All right. Now, I'm going to close this off, and I'm going to come up here, and I'm going to open up Hudson Palmer from the student files. And I'm going to come back over here and find the Solve It student files. And remember, there's two sets of them. There's the Solve It solutions, okay, with some solution stuff already in them. Those that will probably be embellishing. And here are the skeleton files, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to open up Solve It 6.0 student files so I can get the skeleton file. Okay, and I'm going to download those. All right, and there's the Solve It Chapter 5. And I'm going to open, and I'm going to take that and put it on my desktop, and on my nasty, crowded desktop. Isn't that awful? Oh, my Lord. Okay, I need to clean that up. Yeah, look, but yet there's room for Cardinal Buddy. He's smiling at us today. He said, "I'm glad to see you, Will. I'm working so early. I like to get up early, too." Okay. There actually is a Cardinal Buddy. He's here at my house. That's not true. I'm lying. Okay. Now, let's open that up. Okay. Open the file up, and I'll close Excel off, and then I'll enable this content. All right. Now I'm going to come over here, and you'll see all the different tables. Okay. And of course, here's the Hudson Palmer skeleton file. And see, it's missing. It's got some basic stuff, but it's missing all the other things that the authors would have you input. So you're welcome. I'm going to click Create, I'm going to click External Data, Excel, okay, and I'm going to root around here on the desktop, and I'm going to find that Excel file, Hudson Palmer import, and there it is. And so what's the number? What do those numbers mean? I keep seeing. What that means is I've worked with this file. I've downloaded it or saved it 4 times. So the machine will just assign it a number so that every file is unique. You say that sounds much like fields. Yes. When you go to save a file, okay, your desktop, my desktop, your phone, etc., your apps, all of that, they have to have a unique designator. Or the machine, your phone, your laptop will say, do you want to replace the one you already have with something new? Okay. And if you're a pack rat like I am of files, then you just say, I'll just give it a new number. So we got the Hudson import, and I'm going to click Open. Okay. And I click OK. Now, before I do let me stop before we go any further. On these dialog boxes, they give us some options. Now, we're used to this, browse and then find the file. But this is a little different, okay? And so I want to talk about this for just a second. Import the source data into the current database. That's what we're going to do. Could I append a copy of the records to another table? Yes, I could. So if I had data in Excel that I wanted to just simply append to another table, I could do so. Now, let me warn you that the type of data has to be the same in every single column. So if you do an append, appending data is probably going to be a lot easier in a database to run a query and then take the data and then take that query and run a query that appends data rather than do it this way. Okay, So or link to the data source by a linked table. You could do that. It's a little in advance of what we're doing. So we're just going to import the data. Look, if you do just this, the importing and exporting, you're operating way past what most of your contemporaries will even be thinking about. Okay. So we'll click OK. And it's going to give us the import dialog box. And we'll show the worksheets, yeah. And then this shows the sample data. Okay. Now we'll click next. It'll say OK. And always make sure that your first row contains column headings. Now, as we talked about, when you build a spreadsheet, you always want to have a heading that starts everything. A heading in a spreadsheet is the same as a dimension, okay, or the name for a column in Access. Okay, so let's say first row column contains headings. Okay, so good so far. And we can even, if we want, go column by column and name the type of data, okay, that we have. And we'll click next. They'll say, do I let Access add a primary key, or do I choose my own primary key? And I say, okay, I'm not gonna fight Access. I'm gonna let it do the work for me. So I'll click OK. And then we'll import to the table. Click OK, and you're going to see, okay, Hudson Palmer import table. Okay, theoretically. So let's open up, and here it is, the Hudson Palmer case 2. Let's open that up and see if that's what we wanted. And I'll size this up. We'll size this up as well. Aha! Very good. Aren't we smart? We did, my friends. We did it. Okay, I'll put that out. And now notice the computational work that we went through last night in the design view. We don't have to do that. Okay? There's the total earnings for 2008. There's the total hours worked. I have those data. Okay? Now, these have just been stored. If I needed to do some additional computation, okay, I could do so in Access. But I'm just, you see how much more, how much easier it is to just simply do the computational work in Excel and then dump it back into Access. Now, as I said before, SAS Visual Analytics, SAP, Oracle, some of Oracle's products, and Tableau, certainly, are products that, and the pivot table in Excel, are products that try to get you the best of both worlds. I want to store this stuff and get it when I need it in a form that I can use and understand, and I want to be able to do computational work if necessary. And so that's why Office is called a productivity suite, okay? Because it has these tools like Word, like PowerPoint, like Excel, like Access that you can use. And of course, we focused a lot on using the data analysis and the data collection tools, data Access and Excel. And we do that for a reason. These products are the best example of what you will encounter out in the real world, okay? And you'll be able to see under the hood how this stuff works, and you'll be able to have an intelligent conversation with your vendor if that's what if you use a database vendor, or if you have your own database, okay? And you'll understand what a database is. Facebook is a database. We've talked about this, that these tools can imply or be used as the basis for a business model. Amazon's business model is simple. they store every kind. They have an e-commerce store that basically lets you do a search. In other words, lets you run queries on its database for every kind of product imaginable. Then they have distributors who sell the stuff. People who make or sell the stuff to them, and they get it shipped. Okay. Amazon Web Services, the AWS portion of the Amazon company, is the most valuable piece of the whole company. They make more money off of selling people web services than they do off of product sales. And a lot of people don't know that. It's because they have really found the way to track, and then even to predict what you might buy. Now they have a thing called a recommendation engine, and if you don't believe me, the next time you buy something at Amazon, you're gonna look down the screen. It's going to see, it'll say something like this: people who bought what you're buying also bought blah 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 blah. Isn't it nice then to tell us what else we might want to buy? But I rest my case. Okay, so we've got this here table, okay, and let's go in and let's look at this table. And so we're going to look here, and we've got the familiar. You said, boy, that looks very familiar. That it's intended to. And we'll scroll over, and we've got the Q108, what each person were earned, etc. Now we're going to go into the design view. There's the design view of this table. And remember, we worked on the phone last night, so we're going to go to the phone first. And instead of a number, we're going to make that a text. You say, why did you do that? Well, a phone number, inputting a phone number as a number is kind of nonsense, because we don't count, add, supply, and if we have two phone numbers, we don't add them together. We just don't do it. It's absurd. So we're going to go back here and talk about the input mask again. I'm in the field properties. I'm coming to the input. There's that little infinity button. So I clicked it. I'm going to save the table. And you recall this. We even tried it out. We'll click next. And we'll finish. And there's the formatting for the input mask. Now let's go back up to the data sheet view. And we'll save the table. And when we come over here, all right, we're going to see that the phone numbers now are uniform. And in fact, if I go to input a phone number, it gives me that business. Okay? Now, we have a primary key in this table. Let's go back to the design field. And you remember when we were doing the import? Okay? It said you want to let Access add a primary key, and we did. And that primary key is what we call a serial key. Okay? It uses the auto number function that just says each time there's a new record, it creates a new number. And then I groused about, what you should have in here that's, that you keep, what you should have in here that you should have a complete table, don't have any data missing, etc. Okay, so you got that speech last night, and I'll probably repeat it. If you've worked with these things a long time, like I have, you just learn there's some fundamental things that if you do it right, it saves you enormous amounts of work. And it gets you the data that you need. Look, we put you through these courses not because we want to make you a bunch of geeks. We put you through these courses so that you can get the kind of information that you need, and that you understand the concept of a dashboard, okay, that gives us what we call business intelligence. And that is, we take data, we convert it to information, and information is data that I can use to make a decision. And we figure out how to use that information to make our company more intelligent, okay? Understanding the transactions in which it engages, understanding its customers, understanding its vendors, understanding the external environment, understanding its internal operations. And so when you get out to work, you'll see all of that type of thing come into play. Well, we use the input mask on the phone, and we don't need to do too much else, but we're going to create a lookup table. So I'm going to close this table off. Now let's go back out here to the navigation. And here's the table that we were working on. And I want to open it back up. You see, what's going on? We're going to work with the skill thing, okay? And we're going to create a table, a lookup table for skills. All right, and I promise you we're going to do this. This lets us create a drop-down menu. Now, drop-down menus, i.e. lookup tables, input masks, etc., are there to standardize the input of data. And they're there to make sure that we input the right stuff. Okay? So, we have the following skills. We have an EW, and the EW is an expert witness. And I'm just writing this down on a piece of paper so I can have it. The expert witness, LR is a legal researcher. The PS is a process server. And we have PI, private investigators. And let's see, we got PI, and then we've got PS process servers, legal researchers, and expert witness. All righty. We're going to create now what we call a pure lookup table or a pure dimension table. And I'll show what I'm talking about. So we're going to close this off. Okay. And we're going to click Create, Table Design. I'm going to add a primary key. I'll make this the primary key. And this field name is going to be contractor, and we'll just use it. Make it all caps, contractor ID. Okay, and we're going to make the data type an auto number. Then we're going to designate it as the survivor. Ha ha ha! Funny joke, I know. A primary key. So each contractor has an ID. Now, we're going to start, and we're going to do this, try to do this alphabetically. And we're going to have EW. We're going to have the contractor ID. And then we're going to have the contractor code. Then we're going to have the contractor description. Okay? And so we have those three. Now, we're going to save the table. And I'm going to call this contractors I'm going to call it the table contractors. Now, I'm going to input some data here. I'm going to start with expert, I'll put EW. And the contractor description will be expert witness. And then we have the legal researcher, so it'll be LR. We call it legal researcher. Okay. Then we have the PI, and that's the private investigator. And I don't really have to run these together, so I'm not going to do that. Private investigator. And I'm going to put a space between expert receipt. And you can see here, I can input data. You know, I've talked a lot about doing a form. When you have this type of table, you don't need to do that because you just don't have that much to input. So PS, that's the contractor code. And then we have the contractor description, and that, of course, is a process server. Okay, so now we have this contractors table, and this is called a slowly changing dimensions table, okay, which is a fancy way of saying I use this table to input data into another table. Usually as a lookup table, and there aren't going to be many new codes, if any, that I'll add. So it's a slowly changing dimension. Okay, that's just some jargon, but you may hear it out of the office one of these days when you're working. You'll kind of, and maybe this will ring a bell. So now, if we had a new type of contractor, we didn't need to add to this table, but we don't need to. We're good to go. And we have the contractor description. And before we go down, let's go back down to the design view. And I wanted to contractor ID. I want to change that table name. Contractor, and I'm going to put the underscore ID. So it's a little more discernible. So I'm doing that underscore. And I'll put an underscore between code and contractor here. And then under contractor description, I'll do the same thing. Oh. That just makes them easier to read. So we'll go back up to the table, BISS, save the table, yeah. And there we are. That's much better, much better. Now, we'll close this table off that we just created, okay? And now we're going to come back to our Hudson Palmer table, and let's open it up, okay? And now the authors and I had gone through and jammed all of those table names together, and that's okay. Let's go to the design view on this table, and I want to do something here. Total hours worked. Let's put an underscore between it. Now the whole idea here is to get this to look good. Now, if I want to, rather than putting it, I could do this. I could put a caption. You see this down here? It says caption in the field properties. I could put 2008. And let's go back up here and save the table and take a look. And notice it uses a caption. Now, sometimes we can use, we normally use captions for security reasons and just so that the end user can understand them, okay? And I'll go back down and we'll do that with total hours worked, total earnings. So click on total earnings 2008. We'll use a caption. We're going to call it 2008. All right, yeah. And we'll go back up, save the table, and there we are. And you can see, and we haven't changed the name of the field, okay? What we've done is we've just provided a caption, a label for it. And we can do this as a security measure so that an end user doesn't really know the name of our table. And if they really don't know the name of the table, then they can't run a query or use a query as a way to inject what we call an SQL virus, okay? And this just makes it a little bit more discernible. But if I go back into the design view, you'll see, okay, I guess the best example would be when every semester and every course I teach, I have somebody who has a first name that their parents burned them with who wants to be called something different, okay? Your parents had an Uncle Mortimer and they named you Mortimer Jones. And you go, I don't want to go through life with this. So everybody call me Chris. Don't call me Mort, call me Chris. Or call me Mike. And so I'll see that, all right? I'll look at your official enrollment data, or as is in Banner when I get a class list, and then I say, okay, you're using a nickname. So you think of these captions as nicknames, okay? Which reminds me of something very important. If you've never heard the song by Johnny Cash, the late great Johnny Cash, there's a song called A Boy Named Sue. You should get that, YouTube it, and listen. There's a lot of lessons there, okay? It's called A Boy Named Sue, and it relates to this somehow. All right, so I've got all the data here, all right? And now I'm ready, if I want, to run all of the report or all the queries, because I've done number one, okay? And I said we're going to focus on lookup tables. All right, we did the lookup tables for the contractor skills. In fact, let's go back up here, okay? And let's look in the tables, and we see this as contractors. Now I'm going to rename this. I can do it just as easily. Contractors. I'm going to call it contractor _ skills. Okay, which is much more discernible. So now let's go down to the design view of this, and let's look down here in skill. Okay, it's short text, and you'll see the field properties, and we're going to do a lookup. We'll come here to the very first line, and we want to click combo box. Okay, so we have the display control as a combo box. The row source, the type of row source, the type of data we pull from, table or query, okay? And then we come to the thing called the row source. Click on that. That's that third in the lookup tab, that third line. And if you look to the far right, you're going to see a little drop-down menu or an infinity button. Click the infinity button. And what we're going to do is we're going to use a query and run a query so we can create a drop-down menu for this field. And I'm going to come down here to contractor skills, and I'll click add. I'll close this off now. I want to get the contractor code, okay, and the contractor description, and I'll run that, and then okay. So far so good. I'll close this off. I said, you want to, yeah, we want to update the property. Now notice after I've run this, you look at this row source. See, here's the SQL, and so we can see that. Now, if we wanted to click on the infinity button, we could go back into the graphic user interface, the design view, and we'd be in good shape. Okay. Now we've got a bound column 1. Okay, and we got a column count of 2. And I may have to putz around with this a little bit. I even find myself having to do that. We have a column count of 2, and the widths, we're going to put 2 inches, semicolon, 2 inches, and let's go up top and see what we got. We'll click save the table. Yep. And let's see what we got. Now let's come over here to the skill. Let's take the very first one up here and click on it. Now, notice something. We not only get, so if we want to say, what's the code for a process server? Well, it's simple. I just scroll over here and there it is. What's the code for a private investigator? A legal, see what I mean? This way, I got the right data. And when I come down here to add, I'm going to add a new person, okay? And this would be Armin. Now, let's stick with let's stick with an old favorite. Kruger, okay, call him Kruger. You know where I'm going with this. Freddie. And Freddie is Freddie is a process server. Okay, and his hourly rate, and we look at the other process server, and Freddie's hourly rate is $130.00. And in 2008, in the first quarter, he worked 17 hours. In the second quarter, he worked 20 hours. In the third quarter, he worked 10 hours, and so that's 27.57. And then in the fourth quarter, he worked 9 hours. Okay, and that gives us a total of 66. Get it? Back, we make that 170. 200, 100, so he's worked 370, 470, and we'll make that 190. And Freddie has now worked for us for 666 hours. Isn't that creepy, huh? Well, it's Halloween. All right. And 666. That's so 370, 470, and that would have to be 190. Let's see. Oh my goodness, that's 370, 470, and 109. This should be 196. Let me check myself. I become math useless, so I'll use the old calculator, and we'll put 170. Okay, plus 200 plus 100 plus 196. 666. Good. Freddie worked 666 hours. I think you get the joke. And his total earnings. Now that becomes problematic. Okay, and we could run that query, but we're not going to. We're just going to go ahead here in the table and we'll enter data, and we're going to take 666 times what does he earn an hour? Go back over here for a minute. 666 times his hourly rate is 130. And so his total earnings are 86,580. Now we're going to do his phone number. And his phone number is 405 666 6666. His rating, we're afraid of him, so we give him a rating and we're going to call that excellent. You say, why can't we do, and the rater would be BP, and for Freddie, our comment is, yikes. Okay. Now we've done it. So we have our drop-down menu for the skill. You say, Dr. Harmon, let's go back here for a minute. You know, how about the rating? Could we create a rating table? And oh yes, we can. And we're going to do that. So we're making all these improvements. We got all this computational work done for us. Okay. So we're going to go and let's put the ratings are excellent. Good. Okay. And poor. All right. You see, so we're going to go create a table. Yeah, we are. I'll save the changes. Click create. We're going to do a table design, and we're going to put in a underscore ID, rating ID. We're going to make that an auto number. Again, this is what we call a slowly changing dimension table. We'll make it a primary key. Then we're going to have the rating underscore code. Okay. And then we're going to have the rating underscore description. You say, wow, this really would help somebody as they're inputting the data because there's no guesswork involved. They just choose one of these. Exactly. And the next time you go to, say, Amazon, for example, and you buy something, if you have an account with Amazon, okay, you go in to buy something. If you've used your credit card, they'll have that data stored, so they'll show you using card so and so, but it will usually just be the type of card with the last 4 digits. That's an input mask, okay? And so we've got the rating description. That can be short text. And we'll go up top. Yes, we'll save these. And we're going to call this rating underscore guide. Okay. No big deal. And now we'll put these, we got the code and the description. And so for the code, we're going to start with EW. Then we'll go to LR. Okay. Then we'll go to the PI. Then we'll go then to the PS. So we have private investigator. Yeah, that's the PI. We have process servers. That's the PS. I'm looking at the book here on page 166. Legal researchers. Okay. And, ooh, the expert witness. Okay. Now over here we can put the description. Excellent. Pardon me. The ratings. Oh, Keith Harmon. Let's go back to we're doing the contractor skills. No, we're doing the ratings. I'm sorry, we have the contract skills. We're doing the ratings. Okay, and this is the table rating guide. Okay, and so for EW, we're going to put a rating guide, and E is excellent. Okay, and then we have G, which is good. We have P that's poor. Okay, and then we're going to have O. We'll put O here, and that's okay. I'm sorry about that. And then we'll put, and let's do the small case so people don't get confused. And then we'll put the P for poor. You notice we've alphabetized these. So we have the rating guide. So an E is excellent, G is good, O is okay. And when you do, if you have a rating description called okay, then sing with me. Okay, LAHOMA, Oklahoma, okay. Sing it wherever you are right now hearing this. No, you don't have to. So we've got the rating descriptions, the rating code, we have the rating guide table. So we'll close this off. This is only excellent, good, okay, and poor. Close this off. Yep. Now let's go back up here to Hudson Palmer, case 2. We'll open our table up. And there's everything. Let's go down to the design view. And we're going down to the rating. Okay? We're going to do the lookup tab, aren't we? Yes! We're going to do a combo box. So we got the burger. Now, we want fries with it. And the fries will be our row source. So I'll go over here to the infinity button. And I'm going to come down here. I'm going to look for the rating guide. I'll add that in. Okay. Now I'm going to click on the rating code and the rating description. And then I'm going to run the query. Run, Forrest, run. Okay, see, there we are. And we'll close it in. Okay. Now we've got one bound column. There's the SQ again, as I mentioned. The column count will be 2. Okay. And on the column widths, I like to just do 2 inches as a standard, although we could probably do 1 inch for the code, and then we'll put a semicolon, and then we'll do 2 inches for the description. And that probably is the better way to do it. Okay, so let's go back up here to the data view. Let's say save the table. Yep, save the table. Now let's come over to the ratings. And notice we'll click on ratings. And there's our drop-down menu. Okay. Okay, and so I've got that. Okay. So if I come down here to add a new one, boom, I just scroll over to find the one it is, and it gives it to me. Okay. Isn't that nice? And so if we want to put good there, okay, we could put. Now, we have excellent in there. Let's do this. I want to make sure we do this right. So let's get out of that for a minute. Let's go back to the design view. Okay. And let's go back here to the lookup table. And on the rating, let's redo this. So we're going to take that out of there. Okay. On the rating, I'm going to put the rating description first, and then the rating code second. And we'll run that. Okay, we'll close it off, and we're going to come back here. And now we have two columns, and I'm going to put the column width, I'm going to reverse them. So the column width here will be 2 inches, okay, semicolon, and then 1 inch. Now let's see what it looks like. Let's go scroll over here now. And on the rating, okay, good. See? And the first thing that we put in there is what will show up. So we've got that done. Now, you say, could we do this with the rater? Yes. These different people have these different initials. And so we could do the same process, okay, with the rater, okay? And so we have these folks, and I don't know who all their names are. Now let's see do they give us some names for the raters? I don't think they do. And all of these raters live in Oakland. Ha ha ha! Bad joke, I know. Hudson Palmer. Okay, well I think we have some. We go to the bottom, page 165. We have Jeffrey Hudson. So I think Jeffrey Hudson will be JH. Bradley Palmer, who is BP. Okay. And I'm looking for an FM, and okay, let's say that's one of the partners. That would be Frank Martinez. So where'd you get that? Well, the company is called Hudson Palmer Martinez and Flenderson. So I'm going to call that FM Frank Martinez. And then we have Flenderson. Okay. And we're going to call it Robert Flenderson would be RF. So we have JH, BP, FM, and RF. So we're going to go create our table. And we'll click Create, Table Design. And this will be, the first field name for this will be rater. I'm going to put that on. Under rater underscore code. Or we make that, pardon me, rater ID, excuse me. I'm going to make that an auto key. And we'll make it a primary key. Then we're going to have rater initials. And underscore that initials. Okay. And then we'll have rater underscore name. Isn't that nice? Now we're ready to go back up top. Save the table. And this will be raters. We'll just call it raters. Not Raiders of the Lost Ark. Get it? A stupid joke, I know. Click OK. And we got the rater initials and then the rater name. We're going to input those. The rater initials will be, we put them in alphabetical order, okay? This makes it easy. And the rater name would be Bradley Palmer. And then the next one will be FM, Frank Martinez. The third one will be, we're doing this in alphabetical order. We got Bradley Palmer, Frank Martinez, Jeffrey Hudson. And then finally, RF, which would be Robert Flenderson. And what the people doing the rating are actually the partners in the firm. Okay, well, that makes sense. And we'll close that off. And we're good. You said we're going to go back and do another one of those lookup? Yep, here we go. Open up the table, Hudson Palmer again. And we're going to go to Design View. And on Rater, click that. We'll click Lookup. And we're going to come over and find the combo box. Then we'll come down to the row source type, which in the field properties, there's the lookup tab, there's display control, row source type, okay, and then the row source. And so we're going to click the infinity button, and we're going to come down, we're going to get the raters, add that, boom, we've got that, and we're going to put in rater initials and rater name. And we're going to run Forest. There we go. We'll close this off. And that shows us the SQL. And now we're ready to go back up top. Now ask us if we want to save it. We'll go yes. Okay. And we're going to come over here now. Oops, we didn't do something. When we did we didn't do the column. We got one bound column, and the column count is 2. And the column widths we want to do 1 inch, semicolon, 2 inches, like we did before. There we go. We'll save the table. And now let's scroll over here to the rater. And you'll see, you don't have to smudge that out a bit, but you click on that. And you have the code for each of the raters. Isn't that nice? Okay. So that we've done 3 lookup tables. And what this does is it standardizes the input into our table. Okay? Now, we're going to do one final thing with this table. And we're going to start with ID. That's the last name. Let's go on general properties. On the last name, it's indexed. Is it required? No, but we're going to change that to a yes. Okay. And we're going to put allow 0 length would be no. Indexed, yes. Yes, and duplicates are okay on the last name. And let's go back up top and look at that. Save the table. Okay, I know, we've changed the data. And so the last name is required now. So if we go to input a new record, it has to have the first name or the record won't save. Well, let's go back into the design view and let's go to the first name. Required? Yes. We're going to make it required. Zero length allowed? No, we will not allow. That means nothing in there. That ain't happening. We've talked about that enough, I think. Indexed? Yes. And duplicates are okay. Why? Because people can have the same first name. Now, so you want to save it? Yes. And most they said you've changed the data integrity rules. Yeah, we have. Their first and last name are required. Duplicates are okay. So, okay, now wait a minute. You allow duplicates on the first or last name. What if two people have the same first and last name? Is it possible? Certainly it is. But what makes each record unique is what? The primary key, the ID. Okay? Now, we could do the same with the skill. We require it, and so we'll go back in here and skill. Let's click on skill. Is that required? Yes. Why have it if we're not going to require it? Allow zero length? No. Is it indexed? Yes. And duplicates are okay. And so let's go back up. Now, I would require all of these fields. And I would basically say it's required, yes. Are duplicates okay? Except the only thing I wouldn't require, I would require a comment, okay? And I'd say duplicates are okay, but you get my drift. So that the whole thing has to be filled out. The whole record has to be there before the record will save, okay? Otherwise, I can end up with missing data. And so you'd want to do that same process for the hourly rate, for the skills. Otherwise, why have the column, okay? And you say, well, I have the ID that creates a unique record every time. That's true. But if I don't have the safeguard, I don't have complete control of my data. So I'm going to go back in. We've got the skill. Let's look at the skill. And did we? Yeah, okay. And so let's go to hourly rate. And do we have input match range? No. And because it's a number, it has a default value, okay? And do I want to have a validation rule? No. Is it required? Yes, it's required. Indexed, we could, yes. Duplicates, okay. Because we may pay people the same amount, but we want that in there, okay? Now, I'm going to come down to Q108, and I'm going to do the same thing down here. Is it required? Yes. Is it indexed? Yes, and duplicates are okay because two people may work the same hours, okay? I'm going to come down to Q208, and I'm going to put required, yes. Indexed, yes. Duplicates are okay because two people may work the same number of hours in Q208. Then we come to Q308, which is the third quarter, okay? And I'm going to click required, yes, it's required. Is it indexed? Yes, the duplicates are okay. And then we come to Q for the fourth quarter, and I'm going to put, is it required? Why would you not require the data? And then indexing helps the database search faster. And I put a restriction here of saying, yes, duplicates are okay, because two people may work the same number of hours in the fourth quarter. Okay? Here's what I'm doing. With the ID as a primary key and it being an auto number, each new record is just created. Now, from there on over, the contents of that record. If it's not required, don't have the field. It's idiotic not to, okay? Because then you have what we call the problem of nulls. If I get a report and there's data not there, I don't know if it's was left there, if it just simply wasn't inputted, or if it should really be a 0. I don't know. So I just make it explicit when I design the table. And if you're at work and you get a report that has a bunch of gaps in it, that's the time to go and have an intelligent conversation with your vendor, or talk to your boss to go talk to them and saying, I'm getting reports with all this empty stuff, the address is missing or whatever. And probably what happened was somebody was lazy and they didn't do the kinds of data integrity steps they need to do. So we're going a little bit past lookup tables, okay? And is it required? Yes. And is it possible two people work the same number of hours in the fourth quarter of 2008? Yeah, for sure. Hey, so Dr. Hartman, we're going to give an end here to this next one. Are we going to do this? Yeah, I'm a requirement. Yes, it's required. Indexed, yes, and duplicates are okay because you could have two people who work the same number of total hours. Okay, so then we're going to come to total earnings. You say, oh, this sounds like it is a pattern. Is it required? Yes. Is it indexed? Yes, duplicates are okay because we could have two people who have the same total earnings for 2008. Phone number. Is it required? Yes. And do we allow a 0 length? No. And do we want, so the phone number is required. And we allow 0 length? No, we do not. Okay. And so we put in, it's required. And then we'll go, and you say, is it possible for two people to have the same phone number? If they work at a particular company, yeah. We might call the company number and then go to extension 8564 or whatever. So we may even have a table here next to phone number with phone number extension, but we're just going to keep this simple. The rating, is it required? Absolutely. And we're going to put rating is required, yes. Allow 0 length? No. Is it indexed? Yes, and duplicates are okay. Okay. Go back up to the phone for a minute. And the phone number needs to be indexed. Duplicates are okay. And let's see, it's total hours worked. We can do that. Duplicates are okay. Yeah. Phone number, two people may have the same phone number. The indexed, that choice is simple. Indexing allows the computer to do a faster and more efficient search. We know that certain types of data cluster around. For example, last names. If you take last names in English, they're going to be from A, they'll either start with A all the way down to Z. But we know that they tend to cluster in a set of particular letters. So the indexing says, okay, go to the place you're most likely to find it. Okay. Now, we're to phone, we got rating. That's required, yes, no 0 length. Let's go to the phone. Okay. Rating, no 0 lengths. Duplicates are okay, it's indexed. Then the rater, yeah. Required, yes, we want that. Indexed, allow the 0 length. We don't want a 0 length, we don't allow that. No. Is it indexed? Yes, and duplicates are okay. All right, and then we come down to comments. Are comments required? Yes. Do we allow zero length? No. Are they indexed? Yes, the duplicates are okay. Some people might put the exact same indexed. We'll put indexed yes, and duplicates are okay because some may write the same comments. Okay, let's go back up top. Save the table. Now, when we go to create a new record here, all of this data must be put in or the record will not save because it's all required. Now we have real data integrity, okay? And now we have something we can work with, okay? So I wanted to take the time here to go through this process of creating the lookup tables, and so we did that. We did that with skill. We didn't do it with hours worked or anything like that, but we came back over now, and we got the phone number. We used a text. We used a input mask. Excuse me. We went ahead and created a drop-down menu for the rating. Same thing for the rater. Okay, and same thing for comment. And they all must be inputted or the new record will not save. Let me show you what I'm going to do here. Put in a new, this would be Harmon. Okay, and I'm going to go back to the design view. And it says you must enter a value in the Hudson first name. In other words, it says, hey, fool, I'm not saving this record because it's incomplete. So I'll click OK. So I'll close this off. And it's not, and it'll say you can't save the record this time because you haven't put in all the data. I'll open it back up, and there it is. This stops any issues of having a complete record set. And when I see reports that have blank spaces in them, I don't know if I have a null value, which is there's just nothing there, or I have a zero, which means the absence of something. I don't know which one. And if I had set the table up correctly in the first place, I wouldn't have that problem because the record wouldn't save. Okay, so we've taken some time, done a little heavy lifting, but you see this. Otherwise, you get garbage in, garbage out. Okay, so everything starts with the table. And we've also talked about, okay, if I have to do some numeric lifting, I can just export this back into Excel, this table here, add another column, do my math, and pop it back in. Okay. Well, that'll pretty much do it, folks. I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop the share and then stop the recording, and this will be Access Case 2, Part 2. Okay. And so we'll stop the share, and I'll stop